Hey everyone, today I'm going to do a video on finding a spline in a surface. So what I mean is finding the midpoint of the surface. It's hard to explain, like I would call it the spine of the surface, but I think it's called like creating a spline or creating the spline of the surface. I think that's the proper terminology. Let me know if I'm wrong. I can be, obviously, but it's like, for example, if I draw two lines, I would find the kind of point, create the line in between here. So I'm basically making, if I make this a surface, I'm basically finding the spline of the surface, which is the center, the perpendicular, the midpoints of it, quote unquote. So I'm going to call this video like finding the spline of any surface. That's how I'm going to call it. So to get started, we're going to create a random surface. I thought about this while driving today, and I was thinking roads are basically like finding the spline of it, if you think about it, just like the dashed lines that tell you to stay in your lane. So if we draw a road, kind of in top view, what it would look like if it was just winding like that, right? And let's say the road is perfect. So we're going to actually just copy this. Now, this isn't just for roads. This could be any surface. We're going to use this as a surface. But if you wanted to find the spline of this, if it's something perfect like this, you could do copy, and then do copy, and then do midpoint, and then you found it. So it's right there. But let's say this isn't the technique we want to use. Let's do it parametrically via Grasshopper. Let's try it that way. So let's say let's say we didn't have this curve. Let's say all we were given was this surface. So what would we have done with this surface? So there are many ways to do this. You could either use the curves that are given. I'm just kidding. You can only use the surface. So if we were only given this surface, we can do a right click, select one surface, and then we're given the surface. We would deconstruct. Was it plane? No, where's rep? We can do deconstruct brep, and we can hide everything. We can turn the quality to high quality, and now, so now, let's say we're only left with the surface. How are we going to find that spline again? So what we're going to do is we're going to do deconstruct rep, and we're given the faces and the edges. So now we're going to do a list item, and we're literally just going to plug this in, and then we're going to give out, you don't have to do, I know there's 4 edges to this, but what we can do, actually, I saw this on a comment on my video, and thank you to him for showing me this, because I didn't know about this at all. You can actually zoom in and click a plus, and it'll do I+1. So whatever number this is, the index right now is at 0, so 0 plus 1. So it'll give me list 1, 2, 3, and then so on and so forth. So 0 plus 3. So item at +4. Okay, so actually no, because this counts as 1, like I said, so like I've said many times, so 1, 2, 3, and 4. Alright, cool. So what we're going to do is, now we have those edges, we can now do a, we can capture each one of them. So I'm going to do curve, and I'm going to try seeing if it's this one. Alright, that's that one. I want these 2 curves. So basically just using the edges. Nope, it's not that one. It's this one. Alright, these 2. Nice. Alright, so we have those 2. What we're going to do is divide curve, and we're going to divide both of these by the same amount. So let's just put 11 for right now. Plug those in, plug those curves in, and now we have our, and now what we're going to do is draw a line to those 2 curves. Alright, not that. All we have to do is just draw a line. And then instead, we got to do a reverse list, because one of them is reading the reverse. Alright, cool. So, as you can see, we have, so I'm going to turn up the points to, let's say, 31. Alright, and this had to be reversed because the list was reading instead of this point to draw the line, it was reading from like this point to this point to this point, and then it was reversed. So that's why I did a reverse list, as you can see. So, what we're going to do with these is we can actually now use this line geometry to find the midpoint, or we can do, not midpoint, sorry, we can do evaluate curve. And we're going to do this, and we're going to click curve, and the parameter, which is 0.5, which is half. So parameters is basically, if you watch my last video about parameterize, parameter and parameterize, when they say something like that, it's basically by percentage. So like I said before, if you had the UVW components for surface morph to be 1, it would be 100%, which means fill up the 100% of the surface. This is the same thing with the line. So basically, if you had a line and it was saying it was basically, I want 50% of this line. That's half of it. So we're going to plug that in and get half, as you can see. And now we have that spline kind of shape. And to make that line, we do interpret curve. And now we just plug this in. And now we have, and now, I mean, it's not going to be absolute exact, of course. But I'm only given the surface, let's say. I'm not given this base. Of course, I know there's an easier way to do this if the surface is completely flat. I know using Grasshopper is a little bit more inefficient. In my workflow, I would definitely, if I was given this, if I had these two curves, I would do the surface and then, you know, find that spline of it. Yep, I definitely would 100% agree with you on that. But what happens when you want to make those dashed lines? Let's say like a road, make them like a dashed line. Let's try that out. Let's kind of explore that option through Grasshopper. So what we can do is we can do a, what's it called? I'm thinking. We can do an extrude, and then we can do the X direction, and we're going to copy this. And then we're going to have one that goes positive, and then one goes negative. So we're going to type in negative. Blah. Okay, plug this in here. Also here. Okay. And let's change this to 0.25 just for the sake of this. The numbers are arbitrary in this tutorial right now. They're just numbers. Literally, you can optimize the numbers to whatever you want it to be. And obviously, the more except for this one, this is the only number that's not arbitrary. Just letting you know that. So obviously, you can optimize and add more points to make the curve a little bit more smooth, as you can see. Okay, so once you do that, you can do. Sorry, I'm just organized. When I use Grasshopper, I'm very organized. I like to organize stuff as I go. Like I would straighten that out of habit. So what I would do now is I would do divide surface. I think this is how I do it. Because I want that split. If you wanted a solid line, I mean, then you're done. You can actually, if you wanted a solid, you would join these up, and then bygones be bygones. You're done. That's literally all you have to do. And then just, I can lower this to like that. You could, I was thinking you could divide it. Like, hold on. Actually, that gives me an idea. So you can do instead of divide, we can use split. I'm not very good with the split tool in this. Brep, and then the cutter tool, which is all of these curves, or these lines. I mean, we can try this out. What does this say? From line to brep. Cutting shape. Split. Surface split. That's exactly what I wanted, in fact. Okay, we're going to now plug this into here. Alright, and now we're going to delete that. And now we are left with 43 locally defined fragments. So then we can do a call pattern. Then we can plug in the pattern. We could also do call nth. Call nth is already set to a frequency of 2. So technically you could just plug this in and you would already have your dash lines. This is like, it'll say like every 2. I think it was like, sorry, I'm getting mixed up my words. So like every second one it will kind of bleep out. So the second one it'll bleep. And then so if I put 2, do 1, nothing happens because every first one it'll call, which makes no sense, which means it'll literally nullify all of it. So frequency must be at least 2, because if the frequency is 1, think about it. If it's call every second one, call every first one, that's all of them. So if you do call every third one, you get that. You get a wider strip if you want that. So this may have more control. And actually I may like that better than call pattern, because call pattern will do this. If I plug this in, this one, call pattern you can have a decent amount of control as well, because you can do everything based off true falses. So what you can do is, if you want more geometry, just type in 1. You would just do multi-line data, yeah. And then you would just do, if you want 2 trues, 3 trues, and then 0 false, and 1 false, and then text to boolean. Yeah, I forgot how I did this. Did I type true in? I don't think I did. Oh no, oopsie. There we go. Okay, so a tip for using the control panel: if you hit enter again, it'll read it as something. As you can look at true, true, false, null. So it's like, it's wondering what this is. So as you can see, we can have more control in like how many we take over, in a sense. And this one is sort of the same way. So either one's interchangeable. So you can do either one. And again, this is for, you know, solid. This is for stripped roads, kind of. How do I say it? Like, not stripped. And in fact, I want to do, I will keep this, but I'll turn it off because I'm not going to use this. I'm actually going to use call nth because I think I have a little bit more control. And I'm going to add a little bit more points, a little bit more lines, and then turn it to 2. And now we can do this for the other one as well. We can literally copy this. Again, if I was learning this, I would type it, but I kind of know what I'm doing. So if I was learning this, I would type it, I'd retype all this, do surface split. Oh, surface split. And I would throw this in here. And I would use these lines as a splitting mechanism, and then do call nth. And then plug that in, and then I would plug in the same number because I want them to be consistent, right? Or somewhat consistent. Oh, I think the reverse list. I think the list is reading reverse since they are different. Nope. Okay. Well, I am wrong. Okay, that was one assumption. Excuse me. Okay, so why is it reading differently? Let me look at the bottom. This bottom part will make it a little more clear. Okay. So what it's reading right now, it's reading this one. Oh, that's really strange. Because it's reading. Let me do a list item, and I want to see which one it does first. Okay, so the first one, it says, and then, okay, so that list item says this one's first, right? And so in doing that, and this is troubleshooting, as you guys know, troubleshooting is the most important part of Grasshopper in my opinion. So we're going to do another list item, and then we're going to see what this gives us. For 0, we're going to click that, it'll start all the way at the bottom. Yep, that's what I thought. So I think I would have to, yeah, why don't I reverse it? Why doesn't that work? Interesting. Let me try this now. Yeah, it still starts at the very top. In fact, it starts right there, so that's not helping. Interesting. Okay, so let me look at the panel. We'll just say untrimmed. One untrimmed surface. Correct. And now it's splitting with those curves, and it's reading. I think. Okay, so that's that. Interpolate. Okay. Strange. I'm not too sure what's going on. Now let me read into this. So literally it's reading all of these surfaces. I want to read list. So let's type in 50, 58, and see what that gives us. So that will give us the last one. Not that, surface. Huh. Interesting. So it's reading it weirdly, like it's 58 trimming, or splits. How many are in here? 59. This also has, I should have the same amount. But this one is reading so strangely. Like this one is reading it as, this is the last one, when the last one should be down there. So 0 is this one. Oh, wow. So this is reading as the last one. That one is jacked up. Okay, so that one is jacked up. I have no idea why it's doing that. Wow. I don't know why it's splitting like that. It should split in order of this. Like, I'm not too sure why it's doing that. Wow. So 58 should be where 2 is, and 2 should be where 58 is. Let's see if there's something I can do about that. Let's list. I think item index, retrieve a certain item. It's weaved funny. Pick and choose. Hell no. I'm not too sure why it's reading like this. Is there a way to reference this? At least I can reference. So that's really weird. So this one is reading really funky, and I have no clue why. Extrude on this. The negative one. Is the negative one also reading really funky as well? Alright, let me look at this one more time. Yeah, so it's highlighting those two. I don't know why. As you can see, it's highlighting these two. Well, a way to force it to work is called pattern. And then you can just do panel 0, 1. I don't think this will work either, now that I think about it. I don't know why I thought this would work. It's just still reading from a list. Yeah, it's still not. It's semi-working, not really. Like, it's missing this last one, which is list number 58. Yep. So this one isn't working. It's not reading that one. I wonder if I do 1, 0. Yeah, now we're having that same problem, as you can see. So I'm just reversing it to 0, 1. And then now we can just, since I know that one is, so let me go to 58. So let me type in 58. What does it do? So 0 counts as 1. Oh, 0 false. Ah, gotcha. So technically 0, but the problem is it's reading 0, 1, 0, 1. Ah, that's such a weird listing. Ah, I don't know why it's happening, but anyways, now I have that. Can't I just do merge? I can just do a merge and then just plug these data points in. There we go. And now we have our thing done. So we ran into a bit of a problem. As you can see, I figured out the problem. I did a workaround solution. The solution does work. It is basically finding that one surface, and I don't know why this is happening. I actually don't understand. So it's something from this extrusion to the split tool. It's splitting in a really weird way, and I don't think I don't think simplify will work, because it's still gonna have those weird fragments, I believe. Yeah. What simplify does is it reduces the list to a 0. Oh, I should have done it. Whatever. Alright, see how it is. Reparameterize. What the? I know what this does, but reparameterize basically what it does is just changes it from values to percentages. That will not help me out at all in any way that I can think of. I don't think simplify should fix the listing issue, but it really doesn't. It's kind of strange. I think you have to have multiple. Yeah, I'm on their one list, so it really doesn't matter. Anyways, so what I did was I figured out that 0, and it would skip 1 to here, and that's why it was all jacked up. Okay, so now I have these two, and now I can do a join. Now I can do a join, and then, alright, now I got my geometry. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this. I just wanted to show you guys how I would create a road. It's not really about road. This is another listing tutorial in a sense. Everything about Grasshopper is listing, but this is another listing quiz in a sense. Because you really understand, I literally just solved what happened. I was like, I don't know why it's happening, but I figured out what is happening, which is half the battle, probably 90% of the battle. As you can see, it took me, not forever, but it took me a while to figure out what was going on with this list. And then after I figured out what was going on with this list, I was like, okay, I know what's going on. Now how can I fix it? And I'm like, I guess I could try a workaround with this, and then using the surface to merge. And that worked out. That's fine. And there's no problem with doing these kind of dingy solutions. In a sense, that's what makes you a better kind of Grasshopper modeler. It's finding out these solutions. And then if you need to give the script to someone, you can try to optimize it. Yeah, of course, figure out what the problem is between it. But I think this in itself, a troubleshooting method and then actually solving it in front of you guys is important. Because every time I see these people, they are way too good and they know exactly what they're doing. But anyway, so we figured out the midpoint problem. So basically, this tutorial on this is basically the tutorial of it. But this is working with just a flat surface. I want to work now with kind of a weird curvature surface. So, as you can see, it's not going to be a road. A road was just an example because I was driving down the street and I was really thinking about this. I have no idea why I was thinking about it, but I was like, roads are pretty parametric if you think about it. I don't know why. But anyways, Let's turn all this off. Okay. All right, and then now let's start with another random surface, but this time it's going to be lofted. Let's just move this one up. And boom, boom, boom. And then now we can do perspective, zoom selected, ortho be on, turn, turn. And now we can, now what we can do is actually, since we have these curves, and I want to find, let's say these aren't equal length, actually. I like that, they're not equal. It's a little bit odd, right? It's very odd. So what we're going to do is we're going to do curve. And I usually like to work with curves and then move on to surfaces in Grasshopper, because then you could do a lot of easy kind of edits, kind of nice previews. And what I mean by that is you set the curve, and then you can do loft. And then you set these curves, and now you have your loft. But now you're like, I kind of want this farther back. Then you can see what happens, and I like that fact. So I'm going to move this back, actually. And I'm actually going to move this point here. Just trim it up a little bit, just make it nice. Alright, so, see, you can do stuff like that. Instead, I would have to loft it, then undo, then move the curve, then loft again, undo. It's very annoying. So, this is the way to do it, in my opinion. So, I'll be in top view. And what we're going to do is we're going to do basically the same thing. We're going to take that curve, and now, instead with the road we were working with a surface, and then we did a deconstruct brep. Since we already have the curves, we can actually just do a straight divide from it. Again, I just copy and paste it because it's I'm just lazy. And so 2 divide curves, and they're going to be divided by the same. So let's do 12 to start with for both, and then we can kind of change it to what we want. And we can either do a line, which I don't think will work, because if you see this, it's just taking the average. Actually, you know what? That is not working still. I was like, and you know what? That is still not working. Hell, it's still not working. Okay. Hold on one sec, guys. Sorry, guys. I thought someone was knocking on my door, so I just wanted to check. But anyways, so I don't think this will work. As you can see, it's creating this kind of strange pattern. So we can't use the same method as last time. We can't use that same kind of, because we were working with just one dimension, which is flat, or just a flat surface. So we can't do that. Another way we can do it, what I'm thinking, is we can actually use the loft to do a divide surface, because the loft is a surface. So we can do a divide surface, and we can just give this some points. And we're going to make sure they're somewhat even. And then we're going to crank it up to 18. And then we can now do an interpolate curve. And now I want to make sure it's reading correctly. What I mean by correctly is I want to make sure they are grouped by, they're already partitioned by 18. As you can see, they are. And that will do is when I plug this in, it'll create a straight curve, ends it, then creates another curve. Not straight, but a curve. And as you can see, it's mimicking that curve. And now we can take, now, here's the thing. Let's say we want the kind of spline to be like this, or the spline to be here. What we can do is, if we want the spline to be this way, we want the lines to be perpendicular to the spline, which is the direction we want it right now. Or we could do a flip matrix and plug this in and create an interpolate again. And we have now these two, as you can see. So now we can do a evaluate curve. I spelled evaluate wrong. Evaluate curve, which is right here. We can plug 0.5 in. plug parameter and plug curve in. I mean, this is not reading correctly. This is reading. Oh, maybe. Interesting. Because it's not reading. This is not reading as a like a domain. This is reading as. Because I have evaluate curve here, and it was reading as a domain, correct? Yes. Huh. Now, why is it not reading like that now? Are these all individual? No, they're 19 curves. Huh. I don't want them to read all the same. I want them to read as individuals. Parts. Interesting. That is really interesting. Okay. I'm not too sure why it's reading like that. It should read like creating half of the curve. Like a domain. Can I reparameterize this? Interesting. I really thought it would read like that because this it's reading as 0.5 inches and not 0.5 like as a percentage. That's what a parameter is. Parameter on curve domain to evaluate. I mean, I can just like another way I mean, if it's reading it like that, I could throw in that spring output. No, that's not what I'm looking for. That's kangaroo. I'm looking for this. Okay. I was like, whoa. Now, if the lists are reading the same, then you could just, if the lists are reading the same, well, let's see. For example, let's see what this does. And now why is it failing? Parameter is outside the curve domain. Results may be unpredictable. Alright, whatever, dude. Oh, technically it is. I mean, it's not really outside. It's just. So we can divide it by 2 and create, that's half of them, and then we just plug this in to get the midpoint of it. If that's the way we have to do it, then yeah, sure, I mean, whatever. Which is weird because I thought parameter was more of the. Let me try flattening. Yeah, that gets me absolutely nowhere. Oh, well, that makes sense why it's doing that is because this isn't flattened. But let's just turn that off. So, anyways, so I guess I'm not too sure about. I'm gonna do a little more research on this parameters section because I swear it worked on this one. This one had the parameters. As you can see, it did half of the point here, and it started drawing it out. It's literally half. Parameter on curve domain to evaluate. If someone knows why it's not doing that, please let me know, because right now it's reading as a value and not a parameter. That's really strange, huh? Anyways, I got it to work. I mean, but this, I'm just confused. Interesting. So now we have our points, and now we can do an interpolate. Curve. There. And now why is it failing? Let's check this out. And that's exactly why it's failing. That's what I thought it was. Okay. Hold on. If this is reading all grafted. No, not that. Hold on. Let me try this. Evaluate curve. Because this is grafted all of it. So it's reading as every single one of those. So if I flatten. No, it's still reading the same. Okay, well that's okay. I thought it may have been that. I'm not too sure. Anyways, the reason why this is failing is because it's not flattened. Because it needs to read as those as points, and these are reading as 1 point only. So you can't create a point. You can't create a curve without 2 points. It's impossible. So you flatten it, and you get your curve. Oh yeah. So now you have that halfway point, the spline of this surface. Now I want the spline of this surface. So the way we can do is we just do the exact same thing. I'm not too sure why this is happening, so I'm just going to breeze over it. Do evaluate curve. Do length right here, and then we have the division. Not integer division. I mean, I can do integer division, but divided by 2. The length plugged in here, and now we have our component set up, and all you do is just plug this in. Now it happened to be, this division happened to be exactly the length of this, but we wouldn't have known that, so yeah. So now we can do an interpolate. And then flatten. Unless the divide surface component actually creates it from the middle. Well, if it divides it, yeah, if it's dividing the surface evenly, or in an odd number, evenly, yeah, you would get the midpoint, now I think about it. This one didn't get me the same midpoint as that. Well, that's only because, yeah. So anyways, so now we have the spline of this surface, and we can use that to create what we need to create. So yeah, guys, that's pretty much it on creating a spline on a surface. I guess this is the more complicated way. You can do divide surface, I guess, and then do the even number, but this is the more sure way because it's exact. But yeah, I don't know why this isn't working. I'm a little confused. But yeah, guys, just wanted to give you guys a quick video on this. I think it's really interesting. So this will be on my tutorial section on YouTube. I'm just going to name it Grasshopper Tutorial Creating Spline on Surface, or how to create spline on surface. So yeah, guys, thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys have a great day. Bye.